Cool. I guess you guys just want to um, give me your names and maybe where full information, maybe like what sort of work you make, and then we can go from there.
My name's Alicia Link, and I'm originally from New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. And I lived in Boston for about 7 years. I did my undergraduate there, and then I'm currently in Austin, Texas. Just finished my MFA at the University of Texas at Austin through the painting department, but my work has since kind of expanded into a little bit more installation and sculptural objects, you could say, but I'm still very much like using the language of painting. I don't have a very formal training in sculpture, so things can be a little bit wonky or kind of unconventional in that way.
Cool.
I'm Stephanie Ramirez. I am from Maryland. I grew up close to the D.C. area, suburbs of Washington, D.C. So that's where I'm from. What else?
Where you are now? Also
in Austin, Texas, in May. Been right outside of the city. With strictly photographs, and in undergrad I did a lot of work that was like more personal and I guess like more experience or personal experience, and that's like where a lot of my work was informed, what it was informed by. But now I'm starting to get more into the research part of my interest or my background, and I slowly have evolved the work to become more trying to ground itself in a more historical context, or like I don't know how to explain it, but I'm doing more of like the research of my personal history, my family history, and the history of my mother's country, and so I'm like in the middle of all of everything.
That we're trying to start off with everyone is just to kind of talk a little bit about where you work and the space that you make work in now, and or I guess like how you're making work, and how you like balance your like work life situation. Also, I feel like all of those things, especially like immediately post school, are all kind of like entangled
into, and I'm using like more and more like photographs and their archive that they have of the research that I'm doing, as well as like right now I'm like in the middle of so I'm like really heavy into the research process right now. Also working and just like doing a lot of applications. So I don't have a studio, and I'm not like working, but I'm like doing the backside of the work and doing a lot of research. So right now.
Yeah. Do you feel like not being in school is like giving you more kind of like breathing room to feel like you can take time to like do that research
Absolutely.
in like a super thorough way without like having to like, actually produce super quickly?
Yeah, and it's like it's allowing me to kind of regurgitate this thing and to try to make my work make sense at the same time, like
while you're like actively still figuring it out.
Yeah, and I think the research really has caused me to like as an American citizen, being born in the U.S. and then having to like dig through this history and personal history at the same time. It's like I'm in a way kind of reconfiguring where I am as like the artist, and like like the research is like kind of like what I can't even explain it. It's like digging up a bunch of stuff that I'm unanchored of where I thought it was before, and anything.
Yeah. So I got some exciting things for you.
So like, I have a lot of things to catch up, like a lot of things to like understand and re-understand and re-understand and re-understand. And I don't know how long it's gonna take. So I mean that is exciting, but it's like I'm also in the back of my head like, okay, well, what can I make out of this? Or like, but I can't force that either. So I just have to keep going with the research. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I go?
Yeah. Go.
Making work just because of some personal things. My family, because I could make whatever I want. There wasn't really any kind of stipulation. So I made two-dimensional work, pretty much two-dimensional, and shipped it. And right now I'm working on, I was requested to make this installation or anything. I had no studio space, and it's really hard when you're asked to make a large-scale installation or anything. Fortunately, this life and kind of the demands, and she lets me work in my house or anything. Looking for studio space, but it's really expensive in Austin. You wouldn't think it, maybe if you're in New York, but Austin studio spaces for anything.
Yeah, so
I work as adjunct. I don't make that kind of money. So
yeah, I feel like most all of us that are not in school and are living in Austin are like working out of our houses in some capacity, right? Yeah, but he also like works in the house too. Yeah. Austin definitely is expensive. Huh?
Yeah, I know of.
Yeah, I don't either.
It would be nice.
Wouldn't it? What luxury. Cool. So I guess maybe, I don't know if there were like any specific things that you guys felt particularly drawn to. I think one of the like questions.
Rachel, you paused for me. I
was just saying I don't know if there's anything like that you guys felt like particularly drawn to talking about like amongst the like things that I kind of sent out, but I feel like one of and like whether the idea of emotional labor like resonated, that like felt that you guys like had any like specific feelings about. Huh?
You mean in our daily lives or when we approach our work?
I think that felt like applicable to you to like talk about with you guys, because I feel like you're both people that kind of like do things that are like heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think about emotion when I approach my things that happened either in my past, a woman who doesn't have a mother, or anything, you know. And it was funny, I looked at that list of questions, and I already texted you about this, but what I'm reading, and I picked up this book by
talking about this like documentary that just came out about Joan Didion, and they were like talking about that book, and I was like, that sounds, I haven't read it, but I was like, that sounds like pretty great.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, the documentary.
But it's a memoir that covers basically like the year after her life, the year after like her husband dies and her daughter also dies. So it's really heavy, but it made me think about this like the mode of memoir and how I feel like for like visual artists sometimes it's still taboo, but in writing it's not. Personal, like extremely personal history or example, or in a memoir, you can kind of get away with that.
If like writers that are like working in that way, that is, because I like refer to a lot of writers who do kind of like really personal essay memoir-y writing, like Rebecca Solnit and like Amy Dillard and like all of those like, and I wonder if they have like felt also that same sort of like pushback from critics or like when they were in is in fact something that like feels more acceptable in literature than in like art.
But I wondered too if it's like those women were able to write memoirs after years from now.
Like established yourself in a way that gives you license to like be really
for people to
personal
care.
or something. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you personal your work is with like trying to like make it like accessible or
It's like this. I feel like it's not for me or come or anything like that in grad school.
from faculty
Or anything. By a woman faculty or anything. Why it's so personal and even student. You know, this one man was like, well, maybe you can find a novel that is parallel to your story, and then you can like use that novel as a reference so that it's not so diaristic. And I'm like, what? So I got it all of the time that I was in grad school, and unfortunately, you know, my emotions, I'm super sensitive. I'm like, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. If I'm pissed, I'm pissed. If I'm sad, I'm sad. If I'm happy, I'm happy. And it's really hard to hide that. I'm just that kind of personality. So for me, it doesn't make, I can never like ever, I would never ever be able to find the answer of how to separate the two, like my work and emotion.
Right.
I don't, as a human being, I don't navigate
That's just like
that
not
way
an
anymore.
option for you.
Yeah, it's not an option. And I don't see how it can be an option for any human being. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know. And for me, I think I've learned to kind of use that as like a strength in my work. Like I try to.
You're present.
There now, like with the research that I'm doing, like what is it called? The conflict. To see like what's happening now with the, you know, administration in the White House and like seeing all these first, all of these things are infuriating and frustrating, and I'm really really angry. And at the same time, I'm like doing this research where, you know, a lot of the things that I'm uncovering is dealing with like, you know, the facts of the conflict in Central America and. Which is essential, like to like why my mother came here. It ties all in, and so for me, it's like really essential or anything. Yeah, access point, whether it's like emotional or like other things that people are going to say that you just got to come to terms with that. It's like, okay, well, if it's, you know, you got to leave that. You can't work around that or anything.
Way in some form or anything. You got to keep making this work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's also, have I ever sent you guys that like shit, I don't know how to say her last name, that like Anna like Chave article about like minimalism and biography?
No, I don't think so.
She's just like this like art historian that like wrote this essay that I read recently that was the like minimalist movement forward because like their agenda was basically just trying to like make things that had no sort of like personal connection. And she was like, first of all, you can't do that. That's like a ridiculous like that's like a futile quest. You're a human being making an object. You can't like make it not have any sort of relation to you. But she was like, but also like more specifically, like you're the only ones that can even try to do that as a like straight like, white dude. Like you're the only ones that can move through the world with any sort of sense that you read. And so
when I think about that stuff, the first thing that comes up to my head is like, oh, the luxury of that, you know? It's like, God, like if I could just like free myself from these chains, you know?
I read this like quote by David Hammons recently when he was like, I'd love to make work like James Turrell. He's like, but I'm like too fucking oppressed to like make work about light. And he's like, it'd be great for a black man to make work about light. Do that. Yeah, which is true.
Yeah.
And it's like also, it's like, yeah, it's something that I spent a lot of time when I was young or trying not to ever have my work be read as like work made by a woman. Like I was like very adamantly like trying, and I was like making fucking cloth soft sculptures. So I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I was like, I'm gonna make this giant stuffed like brightly colored thing, and refuse to acknowledge the fact that like I'm a woman like making. And it took, because there is a lot of
pushback.
Yeah, there is like about whether that's a valid conversation to have, but like how could it not be when that's just like something you're made aware of constantly when you're moving through the world. And so that's like how you're also, and like how like arrogant is it for someone to say that no one else would care about that.
And then if you try to like make your work funny or lighten the mood or anything.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting balancing act, but also like making work about feelings. Like everybody has feelings. Like to say that that's not an accessible thing. It's like the thing that it's like both like the most common and also like the most difficult thing to communicate. Like it's impossible to actually know what someone else's experience of like love or like sadness experience, but like in like slightly different ways.
Yeah, and people are really lazy viewers too.
Totally.
Like they're looking for all. I feel like a lot of the times people are looking for all these other clues, and if you just spend a little time, you can decode a facial expression or a gesture or.
Well, I feel like it also open to other people's feelings, or like allowing. Like I feel like that is where like a lot of the like pushback around like making that sort of work comes from, is like from people that feel like unwilling to kind of like allow their people's feelings, or who are unwilling to like defensiveness or like guardedness or something. Frozen mid eye roll. Well. Cool. Is there anything else from those things that I sent you guys?
Particular.
One question that I kind of have been like talking to like a lot of the other girls about is kind of like how you start and then more for the very end.
You want to go, Stephanie?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
That's fair. I don't have an answer for it either, which is what.
For something, you out and force it. Eventually, like you'll go back and you find some things that you took maybe like a few months ago that work in what you're working in now. And then if you can't, like, well, for me, it's if I can't, like, you know, right now I'm not working work, like I'm not going out and photographing. I'm done. Done with like a body of work or like, is that the question? Or anything
that comes from, and I think it's like more. It's a more things, you know what I mean? So like, you're there's certain points at which you're like forced to kind of make a decision about like whether something is done or like maybe when to let it go, or because you're just producing like mass, and especially like just since like doing my equivalent of kind of just like pushing myself when I'm stuck, which is doing kind of like maybe it's not so like maybe you don't have to spend as much time kind of like making. I feel like you are capable of having sort of maybe a more kind of like continuous process because.
Yeah, because most of my stuff are files.
Yeah, so you can just kind of like
digital
like
files.
continue to like accumulate and store and like refer back to it without having to deal with throwing things away or calling things finished or
Started, I think, like second semester of school. It hasn't stopped. It's just evolved.
yeah.
And like one body of anything, installation, kind of, you know, and thinking of other ways to use that photographic language to kind of like or anything. And so, yeah, I haven't stopped thinking of like the men and my father and stuff like that, but it's just slowly has evolved into like going further back into a history that still belongs to me, but it's just a little bit more distant. So it's just fed the next thing.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Like I have so many ideas in my head all the time that I like want to like draw or paint all the time. But determine when things are done sometimes because I could work on something and to death. Like
same.
I could just work and work and work. But yeah, if it's a drawing or something small, I feel like I have a better sense. It's more just intuitive of when it feels done. But if it's a larger project, it's like I need the deadline to cut me off from working on it and laboring.
This show, or this has to like be done for this thing. It how do you know when it's done? It just like goes on forever.
And then I feel like still will get feedback where it's like this looks unfinished, but I feel like that can
yeah. It's kind of an unfair question because I feel like whenever I've been asked that question, even like in crits or like about work that I've been making, I'm like, it's never finished. Nothing is ever finished. What does it even mean for something to be finished?
Yeah.
But I think it's also like a super interesting thing. Or like maybe the better question is like, how do you know when to like stop working on something? Or like, I don't know, how do you decide when to stop working on something or something? Maybe. And like maybe like deadline is a better answer or something. You guys are both frozen for a second.
Developed over the years. I just said that I think you know when to stop, or at least I do, and maybe you, Rachel, you do, because of years of experience of making.
And that we're trying from Ingrid when I asked her earlier, but she was just at my.
Sorry, I'm myself.
What did you say? I like touching my cat.
That's like literally been the like first answer for like almost everyone that I've asked. Yeah. Like almost more specifically cats, but like pets and or fur is usually people's like first impulse, and then they like think.
Yeah. Huh.
I guess like you'll relate to this. I'm just like sticking my hand in it and feeling that temperature, and it's not because it's my favorite thing. It's just like this curiosity or this like thing you reach toward.
I mean, my dog, my little boy.
He's pretty cute.
Yeah. I don't know. I have my two boys, my partner and my dog, and I enjoy sometimes like touching the back of my partner's head. He has a bald head. He has like a little cup back there, and I like to grab it.
That's really
So skin, fur,
or
anything I want.
Yeah, I do that also.
Right. Or anything I
I like anything, but that's also kind of more compulsion than like
nice.
Like when you're like anything.
I hate that. I hate it.
Rachel's like, I hate that, actually.
I did have a couple girls that I interviewed earlier today say that they really like touching like dough, or like they're like partners, and when they're saying when they make there's like a specific type of cookie that they make.
And now that I'm thinking of dough, like the masa to make tortillas, whenever I'm making that, I like to like squish it. It's not too wet, it's not too dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like on chairs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would pay attention to that, and like the seams of things, like the seams of a chair, or I don't know, or like the seams of a shirt or something. I don't know.
That's super.
Or like the edges.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said that's super interesting.
The touch.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's responsiveness to what do you like to touch?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Do you want?
Bye.